I am Emma, 28 years old. For my entire life, I believed that family meant unconditional love, that marriage meant joining two families who would embrace you with open arms, that mothers-in-law were supposed to become second mothers, mentors, friends. My husband Ryan always told me his mother was difficult, that she had high standards, that she'd warm up to me eventually. But the worst humiliation didn't come from a stranger or a rival. It came from her. From Margaret Sullivan, my mother-in-law, on a Sunday afternoon that would change everything. I was standing in the driveway of the Sullivan estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. The house smelled of old money and fresh judgment. It was Easter Sunday, and the entire family had gathered for brunch. Margaret's traditional Easter celebration where she showed off her perfect life to her perfect friends. I had worn my best dress, a cream-coloured sundress I'd saved for months to buy. I'd brought homemade lemon bars, Margaret's favourite, or so Ryan had told me. I'd arrived early to help set up, desperate to make a good impression after 6 months of marriage, where nothing I did seemed good enough. Margaret stood on her front porch in a designer pantsuit, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her expression cold as she watched me get out of our car. Ryan was still inside, helping his father with something. I was alone, facing her, holding my lemon bars like a peace offering. "Emma," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "you're early." "I wanted to help set up," I said, smiling despite the knot in my stomach. "I brought dessert." She looked at the lemon bars like I'd brought her a dead rat. How thoughtful, though I already have dessert catered by François, the pastry chef from Le Bernardin. But I'm sure your homemade treats will find a place somewhere. She said, homemade the way most people say, contaminated. I felt my face flush but kept smiling. "Where would you like me to put them?" "Actually, Emma, I need to speak with you before you come inside. Privately." My heart sank. Nothing good ever started with "I need to speak with you privately." She walked down the porch steps and I noticed she was holding something, a black trash bag, large, industrial, the kind you use for yard waste. "What's that?" I asked. "This," Margaret said, her voice dripping with contempt, "is everything you left at Ryan's apartment before the wedding. I've been cleaning out his old place, we're selling it, and I found all your cheap belongings cluttering up the space. Your clothes from Target, your drugstore makeup, your bargain bin shoes. I thought you might want them back before we throw them away. Or you can save me the trip and throw them out yourself." She thrust the trash bag at me. Actually thrust it like she was throwing garbage at a raccoon. I caught it reflexively, the weight of it surprising. It was heavy, stuffed full. "I put all your things in there," Margaret continued. "Everything that screamed poverty and bad breeding. I don't know what my son was thinking, marrying someone so far beneath him, but here we are. So take your trash, Emma. Take it and maybe consider whether you're really equipped to be part of this family." I stood there in the driveway, holding a trash bag full of my possessions, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. Other cars were pulling up now. Ryan's aunts and uncles, family friends, all of them watching this scene unfold. Margaret turned and walked back into the house, leaving me standing there humiliated. Ryan's cousin Jessica got out of her BMW, took one look at me holding the trash bag and smirked. "Spring cleaning, Emma," she called out. I wanted to run. I wanted to throw the bag down and leave and never come back, but something made me look inside. Just a quick glance to see what she'd packed. I opened the bag slightly and my breath caught. Inside wasn't clothes or makeup or shoes. Inside was cash. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills, rubber-banded together. And sitting on top of the money was a sealed envelope with my name written in elegant script. Not Margaret's handwriting, someone else's. My hands shook as I closed the bag quickly, looking up to see if anyone had noticed. Margaret was watching me from the window, her face unreadable. She'd seen me open it. She knew I'd seen what was inside. And then she smiled. Not a warm smile. Something else. Something calculated. Something that said, "Now we'll see what you're really made of." I clutched the bag tighter, my mind racing. How much money was in here? Why was it in a trash bag? Whose handwriting was on that envelope? And what the hell was Margaret playing at? Ryan came out of the house, saw me standing in the driveway holding a trash bag and frowned. Emma, what's going on? Why do you have garbage? Your mother gave this to me, I said quietly. She said it was my old things from your apartment. He looked confused. What old things? We moved everything months ago. Exactly. I could feel Margaret's eyes on me from the window. I could feel the weight of the money in the bag. I could feel the envelope burning against the cash like a secret waiting to explode. And I knew in that moment that whatever was in that bag, whatever that note said, it was going to change everything. Stop right there. If you're listening to this and your heart is pounding, wondering what's in that envelope, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now because this story is about to get wild. And in the comments, tell me, what do you think is in that trash bag? Is Margaret testing me? Blackmailing me? Or is something else going on? Drop your theories below. Let's see who guesses right. I looked at Ryan, then at the bag. Then back at the house where Margaret stood watching. We need to talk, I told my husband. Right now, in private. Because your mother just handed me either a fortune or a trap, and I need to know which one before we walk into that house. Ryan and I got back in the car. I put the trash bag in the back seat, my hands still shaking. Emma, what are you talking about? Ryan asked. What's in the bag? Look for yourself. He reached back, opened it, and his face went pale. Is that real money? I think so. I don't know. Your mother just threw this at me in front of everyone and told me it was my cheap belongings. But it's not clothes, Ryan, it's cash. A lot of cash. He pulled out one of the stacks, checked it. All hundreds. All real, as far as we could tell. How much is this? I don't know, but there's more. There's an envelope with my name on it. I pulled it out carefully. The paper was expensive, cream-coloured, the kind of stationery rich people use. My name was written in flowing cursive. Definitely not Margaret's harsh, angular script. Open it, Ryan said. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside was a single page, handwritten in the same elegant script. I read it aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. Dear Emma, if you're reading this, then Margaret has given you this bag as I instructed. Inside is $500,000 in cash. This money is yours, free and clear, no strings attached. But before you decide what to do with it, you need to know the truth about the Sullivan family. The truth about what Margaret did to me. The truth about why I'm gone. Meet me at the address below. Come alone. Don't tell Ryan. Don't tell Margaret. Come Wednesday at 2 p.m. and I'll explain everything. Trust no one until you hear my story. Especially not Margaret. Sincerely, Catherine Sullivan. The silence in the car was deafening. Catherine Sullivan, I said slowly. That's your grandmother's name. Ryan's face had gone from pale to ashen. My grandmother has been dead for 3 years. Are you sure? Emma, I was at her funeral. I gave the eulogy. She died of cancer in 2021. This has to be a sick joke. I looked at the letter again. The handwriting was shaky in places, like someone elderly or ill had written it. But it was clear enough. And the date at the top of the letter was from 6 months ago, right before Ryan and I got married. Ryan, what if she's not dead? What if your family lied? That's insane. Why would they fake her death? I don't know, but this money is real. This letter is real. And your mother just gave it to me in front of your entire family like it was trash. Why would she do that unless she wanted me to find it? Ryan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized as his stress response. This doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. The address on the letter, do you recognize it? He looked. It's in Queens, an apartment building in Forest Hills. Why would my grandmother be in Queens? She lived on the Upper East Side her entire life. Maybe that's why no one would find her. I looked at the house where Margaret was still visible in the window watching us. Your mother is testing me, Ryan, or warning me or something. But whatever this is, she wanted me to find this bag. She wanted me to read this letter. The question is why. We should confront her. Right now. Ask her what's going on. No, I said quickly. The letter says don't tell Margaret. If your grandmother is alive, if she's been hiding for 3 years, there's a reason. And if Margaret is involved in whatever happened, confronting her could be dangerous. Dangerous. Emma, this is my family. They're not dangerous, they're just difficult. Your mother just threw $500,000 at me in a trash bag and called my possessions garbage in front of your entire family. She's more than difficult, Ryan. She's playing some kind of game, and we need to figure out what it is before we walk into that house. Ryan looked at the money, then at the letter, then at me. What do you want to do? I want to go to that address. Wednesday at 2 p.m., like the letter says. I want to see if your grandmother is really alive, and if she is, I want to hear what she has to say about Margaret. I'm coming with you. The letter says, come alone. I don't care what the letter says. That's my grandmother. If she's alive, I have a right to see her. I thought about it. Okay, but we don't tell anyone. Not your parents, not your family. We act normal at this Easter brunch, we pretend I threw away that trash bag, and we wait until Wednesday. What about the money? We can't just leave $500,000 in the car. We take it home, we count it, we hide it, and we don't spend a penny until we understand what's happening. We sat there for another moment, both of us trying to process what had just been dropped in our laps. Literally. Then Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. Are you two coming inside? Everyone's waiting. I looked at Ryan. Can you do this? Can you sit through Easter brunch pretending everything is normal while we're sitting on $500,000 and a letter from your supposedly dead grandmother? I don't know. Can you? I have to. Because whatever your mother is up to, whatever game she's playing, I'm not giving her the satisfaction of seeing me run. I'm going to walk into that house, smile, eat catered dessert, and act like she didn't just try to humiliate me in front of everyone. And then on Wednesday, we're going to find out the truth. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay, let's do this. But Emma, promise me something. What? Promise me that no matter what we find out, no matter what my grandmother says, we deal with it together. No secrets, no hiding things from each other. I looked at my husband, this man I'd married 6 months ago, this man whose family had made it their mission to make me feel like I didn't belong. I promise, together. We got out of the car. Ryan popped the trunk and we moved the trash bag into it, covering it with a blanket. Then we walked hand in hand toward the house, toward Margaret, who was still watching from the window, toward a family brunch that would feel like walking through a minefield. Margaret opened the door before we could knock. There you are. We were starting to worry. Her eyes flicked to my empty hands. Did you dispose of your garbage? Yes, I said, meeting her gaze directly. Thank you so much for thinking of me. It's always nice when family looks out for you. Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Approval? I couldn't tell. Well, come in then. Everyone's in the dining room. The house was full of people. Ryan's father, Gregory, holding court by the fireplace, Ryan's sister Amanda with her husband and 2 kids, various aunts, uncles, cousins, all dressed in Easter pastels, all holding mimosas, all turning to look at us as we entered. There's the happy couple, Gregory boomed. He'd clearly started drinking early. Emma, you look lovely as always. That dress is very quaint. Quaint. The way he said it wasn't a compliment. Ryan squeezed my hand. We made our way through the room, accepting air kisses from relatives who looked at me like I was a curiosity. How's the teaching job, Emma? Ryan's Aunt Patricia asked, her tone suggesting teaching was somewhere between fast food worker and professional disappointment. It's wonderful, I said. 4th grade is challenging but rewarding. How sweet. Teaching children. Though I imagine the salary must be difficult. Ryan was always destined for bigger things. Yale law, partnership track at his father's firm. Such a shame he had to slow down his trajectory. The implication was clear. I was the reason Ryan had to slow down. I was the anchor dragging him down from his potential. Margaret appeared at my elbow. "Emma, dear, why don't you help me in the kitchen? We need someone to arrange the vegetable crudités." Vegetable crudités, the job you give to the help. But I smiled and followed her, leaving Ryan with his family. In the kitchen, Margaret closed the door behind us. "You opened the bag," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. And?" "And I found exactly what someone wanted me to find." Margaret's expression was unreadable. Catherine always did have a flair for the dramatic. "So you knew what was in the bag?" "Of course I knew. I'm the one who put it there." I felt my heart racing. Why? Why give it to me like that? Why humiliate me in front of everyone? "Because I needed to see what you would do," Margaret said calmly. She poured herself a glass of wine, didn't offer me one. Catherine left instructions. Very specific instructions. She said when Ryan got married, I was to give his wife that bag in the most demeaning way possible. She wanted to see if the woman Ryan chose would have the spine to open it despite the humiliation, or if she'd throw it away in shame. That's sick. That's Catherine. She was always testing people, always playing games. She left me that money with very specific instructions on how and when to give it to you. And a letter, which I assume you've read. The letter says to come alone to an address in Queens. I know what the letter says. I wrote down the address for her. I stared at Margaret. Is she alive? Is your mother-in-law actually alive? Margaret took a long sip of wine. That depends on your definition of alive. What does that mean? It means you'll find out Wednesday at 2 p.m. when you go to Queens, if you go. Or you can take the money and run, disappear, leave my son and never look back. That's also an option Catherine accounted for. I'm not leaving Ryan. We'll see. Catherine has a way of revealing uncomfortable truths. Once you hear what she has to say, you might change your mind about being part of this family. Margaret set down her wineglass. Now, arrange those vegetables. We have a brunch to host. And Emma? When you go to Queens on Wednesday, remember something. Catherine Sullivan was a brilliant woman, but she was also ruthless. Whatever she tells you, whatever she shows you, she has an agenda. Everyone in this family always does. She left the kitchen, leaving me alone with a tray of vegetables and a head full of questions. I could hear laughter from the dining room. Ryan's voice telling a story, his family's voices enjoying their perfect Easter brunch in their perfect house with their perfect lives built on what I was increasingly certain were very imperfect secrets. I arranged the vegetables with shaking hands. Then I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the address from the letter. Forest Hills, Queens, apartment 4C, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Whatever truth was waiting for me there, whatever Catherine Sullivan wanted to tell me about this family, I was going to hear it. Because Margaret was right about one thing. I had opened that bag despite the humiliation. I had read that letter despite the warning. And I would go to that address despite the danger, because I needed to know what I'd married into, what family I'd joined, and what secrets were worth $500,000 and a faked death to protect. Okay, pause. Hit that like button if your mind is racing right now. Because Margaret knew what was in the bag. She put it there. Which means this whole thing is a setup. But for what? Is Catherine really alive? Is this a test? Drop alive in the comments if you think Catherine is actually alive. Drop dead if you think this is Margaret manipulating Emma. Let's see what you think. I walked back into the dining room carrying the vegetable tray. Margaret caught my eye across the room and raised her wine glass in a small toast. Just to me. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just about money or secrets or family drama. This was war. And Margaret had just fired the first shot by handing me that trash bag. The question was, what would I do when Catherine Sullivan gave me the ammunition to fire back? My mind drifted back to 8 months earlier, to the night Ryan first brought me home to meet his family. I was 27 then, teaching 4th grade in Brooklyn, living in a tiny studio apartment I could barely afford on a teacher's salary. I'd met Ryan at a coffee shop near my school. He was there with his laptop working on a legal brief. I was grading papers. We'd struck up a conversation about education law, and 6 weeks later we were inseparable. Ryan had warned me about his family. "They're old money," he'd said. "Very traditional, very particular. My mother especially. She had a whole life planned out for me, and none of it included falling in love with a public school teacher from Ohio." "Should I be worried?" I'd asked. "Just be yourself. They'll love you eventually." Eventually. That word should have been a warning. The Sullivan estate looked like something from a movie, 10,000 square feet of Georgian architecture on 3 acres in Greenwich. When we pulled up, I felt my stomach drop. "Ryan, I can't do this. Look at this place. I grew up in a ranch house in Cleveland. I don't know how to be around people like this." "People like what? They're just my family." "Rich people," I said quietly. "People who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Aspen. People who know which fork to use for what course. I'm going to mess this up." Ryan had taken my face in his hands. "Emma, you're brilliant. You're kind. You're the best person I know. If they can't see that, that's their problem, not yours." We'd walked in holding hands. Gregory was in his study, and Margaret was in the sitting room with Ryan's grandmother, Catherine. I'd been terrified of Catherine Sullivan. She was 91 years old, sharp as a knife, and reportedly had opinions about everything, especially who her grandchildren should marry. "Grandmother, this is Emma," Ryan had said. Catherine was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with white hair pulled back in a bun and eyes that seemed to see right through you. She'd been sitting in a wing-back chair doing needlepoint, and she'd looked up at me with those penetrating eyes and said, "Come here, child. Let me look at you." I'd approached nervously. Catherine had taken my hand, turned it over, examined my palm. "Working hands," she'd said. "Good. Too many young women today have hands that have never done anything but hold a phone." "Emma's a teacher," Ryan had said proudly. "4th grade. Public school or private?" Catherine had asked. "Public. PS 234 in Brooklyn." The room had gone quiet. Margaret, who I hadn't really noticed before, had made a small sound of disapproval. "Public school," Catherine had said thoughtfully. "So you work with poor children? Children who can't afford better?" "I work with children who deserve better," I'd corrected gently. "And I try to give it to them. Every child deserves a good education, regardless of their parents' income." Catherine had smiled then. A real smile. "Good answer. Very good answer. Margaret, did you hear that? The girl has principles." Margaret had stood up, and I'd gotten my first good look at her. Tall, elegant, cold. "Yes, Mother Catherine. Very inspiring. Ryan, dear, why don't you show Emma the garden while I speak with your grandmother?" It was a dismissal, clear and unmistakable. Later, after dinner, Catherine had pulled me aside. We'd been in her private sitting room, just the two of us. "Let me tell you something about this family, Emma. We look perfect from the outside. Perfect house, perfect pedigree, perfect lives. But perfection is just a veneer. Underneath, we're as flawed and messy as anyone. Probably more so because we have the money to hide our flaws better." "I'm not sure I understand." "You will, if you marry my grandson. And I think you will. He looks at you the way Gregory used to look at me before Margaret got her claws in him. You'll understand. This family will test you. They'll try to break you. Margaret especially. She can't stand anyone who threatens her control, and you, my dear, are a significant threat." "Why?" "I'm just a teacher. I have no money, no connections, no power." "Exactly. Which means you didn't choose Ryan for what he can give you. You chose him for who he is. That terrifies Margaret. Because if you love Ryan for himself, then by extension, you're proving that love doesn't require all the things she's spent her life accumulating. Money, status, control. You're a living refutation of her entire worldview." I'd sat down, overwhelmed. "Mrs. Sullivan, I don't want to cause problems. Maybe Ryan and I should..." "Should what? Give up? Let her win?" "Absolutely not. Listen to me carefully, Emma. I don't have much time left. The cancer is everywhere now. Months, maybe a year if I'm lucky. And I need to know that when I'm gone, this family won't completely lose its soul to Margaret's machinations. I don't know what you want me to do. Catherine had taken my hand again. I want you to be exactly who you are. Kind, principled, unwilling to compromise your values for comfort. And when things get difficult, and they will, I want you to remember that someone in this family believed in you from the very beginning. Someone thought you were exactly what this family needed. Thank you, I'd whispered. Don't thank me yet. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to update my will. I'm leaving you something. Not money, not directly, but something that will give you leverage when you need it most. When I die, Margaret will try to make your life miserable. She'll undermine you, belittle you, try to drive a wedge between you and Ryan. But when it gets unbearable, when you think you can't take any more, you'll receive a package. Open it. Use what's inside, and remember that I'm with you, even when I'm gone. Mrs. Sullivan, that sounds ominous. It's insurance. That's all. Insurance against Margaret's worst impulses. She'd smiled at me, and for a moment she'd looked young again. You're going to be fine, Emma. You're stronger than you think, stronger than any of them realize. And that's going to be your advantage. 3 weeks later, Catherine Sullivan had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 2 months after that, she'd passed away. Or so everyone said. The funeral had been massive. Hundreds of people. Catherine had been involved in every charity in Connecticut, every social organization, every high society event. Her obituary in the New York Times had been 3 columns long, detailing her philanthropy, her marriage to Robert Sullivan, deceased, her son Gregory, her 3 grandchildren. I'd cried at the funeral, not the polite dabbing of tears that everyone else was doing, but actual sobbing, because in the brief time I'd known her, Catherine had been kind to me. She'd seen me. She'd believed in me when no one else in that family did. Ryan had held my hand during the eulogy. Gregory had spoken about his mother's grace and generosity. Amanda had read a poem. Even Margaret had spoken, though her words had felt rehearsed, performative. And then, 3 weeks after the funeral, Ryan and I had gotten married. Small ceremony, just immediate family and a few friends. Catherine's absence had been a hole in the day, but we'd pressed forward, young and in love and naive enough to think that love would be enough. For the first few months, things had been okay. Margaret had kept her distance, seemingly resigned to the marriage. Gregory had been cordial. Amanda had been polite. The extended family had treated me like a curiosity, the public school teacher who'd somehow landed Ryan Sullivan, but not actively hostile. Then, about 3 months in, things had started to shift. Small comments at family dinners. Emma, dear, that dress is very economical. Ryan, shouldn't Emma be thinking about a career change? Something more suitable for a Sullivan. It must be hard for you, Emma, not being able to contribute much financially to the marriage. Each comment was a small cut. Individually, they seemed like nothing. Collectively, they bled me dry. Ryan had tried to defend me, but he was caught in the middle. And Margaret was skilled at making her attacks seem like concern. I'm just trying to help Emma fit in, she'd say. This is a big adjustment for her, coming from such a different background. The implication was always there. I didn't belong. I was beneath them. I was a mistake Ryan had made that they all had to tolerate. And now, sitting in the Sullivan dining room on Easter Sunday, eating catered food while my stomach churned with anxiety about the trash bag full of money and secrets in our car trunk, I understood what Catherine had meant. She'd known. She'd known exactly what would happen. She'd known Margaret would try to destroy me, and she'd left me a weapon. $500,000 and a meeting in Queens were Catherine Sullivan's way of fighting back from beyond the grave. Or, apparently, from a secret apartment in Forest Hills. The question I couldn't stop asking myself was, why fake her death? What was so terrible about this family that Catherine Sullivan, Society matron, philanthropist, beloved grandmother, would stage her own death and hide in Queens for 3 years. What secrets were worth that sacrifice? And what was she going to ask me to do with them? Listen to me. If you've ever felt like you don't belong somewhere, like you're being tested constantly, like you have to prove your worth every single day, hit that like button right now. And drop "I see you" in the comments if you understand what Emma's going through. Let's build a community of people who know what it's like to fight for your place in spaces that don't want you there. Gregory tapped his wine glass with a fork. Everyone, I'd like to make a toast to family, to tradition, to the Sullivan legacy that we all have the privilege and responsibility to uphold. Everyone raised their glasses. I raised mine, met Margaret's eyes across the table, and saw something there that made my blood run cold. She knew I was going to Queen's on Wednesday. She was counting on it, and whatever Catherine was about to tell me, Margaret wanted me to hear it. The only question was, why? Monday morning, I went to work like normal. 23 fourth graders, chaos and joy in equal measure. I taught fractions and supervised recess and mediated playground disputes, and the whole time my mind was on that trash bag in our closet at home. Ryan and I had counted the money Sunday night after we'd gotten home from the brunch, $500,000 exactly. All hundreds. Sequential bills, which meant they'd probably come from a bank withdrawal. All legitimate as far as we could tell. What do we do with this? Ryan had asked, staring at the stacks of cash covering our bed. We hide it. We don't deposit it. We don't spend it. We don't tell anyone about it. Not until we talk to your grandmother. If she's even alive. Emma, what if this is some elaborate prank? What if my mother is messing with us? Then we'll know Wednesday. But Ryan, the way Margaret acted today, the things she said in the kitchen, she knows your grandmother is alive, I'm sure of it. We'd put the money in a fireproof safe we'd bought at Home Depot for exactly this purpose. Neither of us could sleep that night. I kept thinking about Catherine's words from that first meeting. When things get difficult, you'll receive a package. This was the package. The trash bag was the package, which meant things were about to get very difficult. Tuesday crawled by. I taught lessons on autopilot. My teaching assistant, Keisha, noticed. "Girl, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just family stuff," I'd said. "Mother-in-law drama. You know how it is." "Say less. My husband's mama tried to tell me how to cook his favorite meal at our first Thanksgiving. I was like, Mom, he married me. He likes my cooking. Respect it." I'd laughed, but it felt hollow. This was so much bigger than cooking disputes. That evening, Ryan and I sat down to plan Wednesday. "I'm coming with you," he insisted for the 10th time. The letter said, "Come alone." The letter is from a dead woman who's apparently not dead. I'm not letting you go alone into some random apartment in Queens. Ryan, what if coming with me ruins whatever your grandmother is trying to do? What if she sees you and clams up? Then we lose a chance at truth. But Emma, I can't let you walk into a potentially dangerous situation by yourself. We compromised. Ryan would come to Queens, but he'd wait in the car. If I wasn't out in an hour, he'd come up. If anything felt wrong, I'd text him a code word and he'd call the police. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work. I never called in sick. My principal was surprised. "You okay, Emma? You never miss a day." "Just not feeling well. Should be back tomorrow." I felt guilty lying, but what was I supposed to say? I'm meeting my possibly alive mother-in-law who faked her death to hide from her family. We left at noon, giving ourselves plenty of time to get to Queens. The apartment building was in a nice part of Forest Hills, middle class, well-maintained. Nothing like what you'd expect for Catherine Sullivan. We pulled up at 1:45 p.m. "You sure about this?" Ryan asked. "No, but I'm going anyway." I kissed him, got out of the car, and walked toward the building. Apartment 4C, the lobby was clean, modest. An elderly doorman looked up. "Help you?" "I'm here to see apartment 4C. "Name?" "Emma Sullivan." He consulted a list. "Yeah, Mrs. S. said you'd be coming. Go on up. Elevators to your left." So she was expecting me. The doorman knew about me. This was really happening. I took the elevator to the 4th floor, found apartment 4C, and knocked. For a long moment, nothing. Then I heard footsteps. Slow shuffling. The door opened. Catherine Sullivan stood there, alive, aged significantly, but unmistakably her. "Hello, Emma," she said. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." I just stared. She was thinner than I remembered, frailer, but her eyes still had that sharp intelligence. "You're alive." "Obviously. Come in, dear. We have a lot to discuss." The apartment was small but comfortable. 1 bedroom, a living room with a view of the street. A kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. Nothing like the mansion she'd left behind. Catherine gestured to a couch. "Sit. Would you like tea?" "I want answers. What the hell is going on? Everyone thinks you're dead. Your family buried you. Ryan gave a eulogy at your funeral. They buried an empty casket. Or rather, a casket full of medical waste waited to feel like a body. The cremation was fake. The death certificate was fake. All of it orchestrated by me with help from people Margaret doesn't know exist." "Why? Why would you do that?" Catherine sat down slowly in an armchair across from me. "Because my family was trying to kill me, not quickly, not with a gun or poison, slowly, legally, through manipulation and control, and a healthcare system that values family wishes over patient autonomy." I felt my breath catch. "I don't understand. Let me tell you a story, Emma. About a woman who built a fortune, raised a son, and watched that son marry a monster. My son Gregory was a good man once. Kind, principled, much like Ryan is now. But Margaret changed him. Over 30 years of marriage, she broke him down, rebuilt him in her image. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late." Catherine pulled out a folder from beside her chair. "When I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 3 years ago, I had 2 choices. Fight aggressively or accept palliative care. I wanted to fight. Clinical trials, experimental treatments, whatever it took. I had the money. I had the will. But Margaret had other plans." She opened the folder and spread out documents on the coffee table. Medical records, legal papers, email printouts. 2 weeks after my diagnosis, Gregory came to me with paperwork, power of attorney documents. He said it was just a formality to make sure my affairs were in order if the cancer progressed quickly. I almost signed them. Then my lawyer called. He'd reviewed the documents and found something troubling. These weren't standard medical power of attorney forms. They gave Gregory and Margaret complete control over my healthcare decisions, my finances, everything. And they were irrevocable. They were trying to take control of your life. They were trying to take control of my death. I started digging. I found emails between Margaret and a doctor at the hospice facility where they wanted to place me. She was negotiating how quickly they could transition me to comfort care only, how soon they could stop treatment. Emma. I wasn't even that sick yet. The cancer was operable. I had a chance, but Margaret wanted me dead. I felt sick. Why? Why would she want you dead? Money, control, freedom from my oversight. I had a trust worth 45 million tluns. When I died, it was set to be divided between my 3 grandchildren, Ryan, Amanda, and Gregory's nephew, Marcus. But there was a clause. If any grandchild married someone Gregory and Margaret deemed unsuitable, that grandchild's share would be reduced to $1 million. The rest would go to the other grandchildren or, if all married unsuitably, to charity. Let me guess, I'm unsuitable. Oh, extremely. Public school teacher, no family money, no connections, you're Margaret's worst nightmare. But here's what she didn't know. I'd been planning to change my will. I'd already drafted amendments that would remove Margaret's veto power over the inheritance. I was going to make sure Ryan got his full share regardless of who he married. I was going to fund a foundation that would support public education in your name. I was going to do a lot of things that would diminish Margaret's control over this family. Catherine leaned forward. Margaret found out. I don't know how, But she found out. And suddenly, Gregory was pushing those power of attorney papers. Suddenly, they were talking about hospice and comfort care. Suddenly, my doctor of 30 years, was suggesting I might want to consider quality of life over quantity. They were going to let me die, Emma, and then they were going to execute my old will, the one that gave them veto power, and use it to control my grandchildren forever. So you faked your death. I faked my death. I have a friend, Bernard, who worked in healthcare administration. He helped me falsify records. I have another friend, Louise, who's an estate attorney. She helped me create a separate trust that Margaret doesn't know about. And I have a doctor, Dr. Reeves, who actually cares about treating my cancer rather than expediting my demise. We staged my death, I went into hiding, and I've been receiving treatment here in Queens under an assumed name. I tried to process this. But the funeral, the obituary, the death certificate, how did you fake all of that? Money and connections, dear. Not Margaret's connections, mine. People I've helped over the years. People who owe me favours. People who understand that sometimes the law is less important than justice. She smiled grimly. I've spent 3 years in this apartment, getting treatment, watching my family from a distance, waiting. Waiting for what? For Ryan to get married, for Margaret to reveal herself, for the perfect moment to strike back. She pointed at the folder. Everything you need is in here. Proof of Margaret's plans to hasten my death. Emails between her and the hospice doctor discussing expediting the process. Financial records showing she'd already spent money she expected to inherit from me. Evidence of fraud regarding my estate. Why give this to me? Why not go to the police yourself? Because I'm dead, Emma. Officially, legally dead. If I suddenly reappear, there are complications, legal ramifications for the people who helped me. Questions about insurance fraud, death certificate falsification. It's messy. But you're the innocent party. You received information from an anonymous source. You investigated. You discovered wrongdoing. You can take this to the authorities without any of the complications I'd face. I stared at the documents. You want me to destroy Margaret. I want you to stop her. There's a difference. If you take these documents to the district attorney, Margaret will be charged with attempted murder, fraud, possibly more. She'll go to prison. Gregory might too, depending on how deeply involved he was. The family will implode. Ryan will have to face the truth about his parents. It will be ugly and painful and devastating. And if I don't, Catherine sat back, then Margaret continues to control this family. She'll make your life miserable, as she's already started to do. She'll undermine your marriage. She'll turn Ryan against you eventually. She's patient and she's ruthless. And when I actually die for real, which will be soon, the cancer is back, and this time it's winning. She'll execute my old will and use the inheritance to maintain her grip on everyone. Your children, if you have them, will grow up under her influence. She'll warp them the way she warped Gregory. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Yes, but it's also true. And Emma, I need you to understand something. The $500,000 in that trash bag, that's not part of my estate. That's cash I had hidden, money Margaret doesn't know about. It's yours regardless of what you decide to do. You can take it, leave Ryan, start a new life somewhere else. Or you can take it and stay. Use it as a buffer against Margaret's control. Or you can stay and fight. Use the documents I've given you to end Margaret's reign once and for all. You're giving me a choice. I'm giving you the choice I wish someone had given me 40 years ago when I first realized what Margaret was. I stayed silent. I thought I could manage her, contain her, protect my family from her worst impulses. I was wrong. She got worse. She consumed Gregory. She's poisoning Amanda. And now she's coming for Ryan through you. The question is, are you going to let her? I looked at the documents spread out on the coffee table. Emails with subject lines like accelerating timeline and comfort care transition. Financial statements showing Margaret had spent $200,000 of inheritance money before Catherine was even dead. A recorded phone conversation between Margaret and the hospice doctor where Margaret explicitly discussed making sure Mother Catherine isn't in pain for too long. My hands were shaking. If I do this, if I take this to the DA, Ryan's family is destroyed. His father might go to prison. His mother definitely will. He'll hate me. He might. Or he might finally see his mother for who she really is. That's the risk. But Emma, let me ask you something. Do you love my grandson? Yes, more than anything. Then you need to decide what kind of life you want with him. One where you're constantly fighting Margaret's manipulation, where you're always second-guessing whether Ryan's choices are his own or her influence, where your children grow up learning that cruelty is okay as long as it's dressed up as family tradition. Or do you want a clean break? A life where Ryan is free from her, even if it's painful in the short term? I stood up, needing to pace. I can't make this decision right now. This is too much. I know. That's why I'm giving you the documents to take with you. Read them. Think about them. Talk to Ryan if you want, though I'd recommend against it until you've decided what you want to do. And Emma? Yes? Remember what I told you the first time we met? You're stronger than you think, stronger than any of them realize. That includes me. I'm giving you power here, yes, but you're the one who has to decide how to use it. Choose wisely. I took the folder, my hands still trembling. The doorman downstairs, he knows you're alive. Bernard, he's one of my helpers. Ex-military, loyal to a fault. He's kept my secret for 3 years. Who else knows? A handful of people. My doctor, my lawyer, a nurse who comes twice a week. That's it. Even Ryan doesn't know, as you've seen. When the letter said, "Don't tell Ryan," you really meant it. I did. Because Ryan is Gregory's son. He loves his father. He wants to believe Gregory is a good man who's simply under Margaret's influence. But the truth is more complicated. Gregory made choices. He chose Margaret. He chose money and status over me. He was complicit in trying to hasten my death. That's going to destroy Ryan when he learns it. And I need you to decide if you're strong enough to be there for him when his world falls apart. I moved toward the door. I need to go. I need to think. One more thing. Catherine stood, moving slowly. She pulled a small box from her pocket. This was going to be my wedding gift to you and Ryan, but you got married while I was dead. Open it. Inside was a ring. Antique, beautiful, with a large emerald surrounded by diamonds. This was my grandmother's ring. 5 generations of Sullivan women have worn it. I'm giving it to you now because you're the first woman to marry into this family in 3 generations who married for love, not money or status or control. You're the first one who chose a Sullivan man for who he is, not what he can provide. I can't accept this. It's too much. You can and you will. Because when you decide what to do with those documents, when you choose whether to destroy Margaret or let her continue her reign, I want you to remember that someone in this family believed in you. Someone thought you were exactly what this family needed to save itself. I took the ring, my eyes blurring with tears. Catherine, I don't know if I can do this. You can, and you will, because that's who you are, Emma. You're the woman who opened that trash bag despite the humiliation. You're the woman who came here today despite not knowing what you'd find. You're brave. Now go be brave enough to do what's right, even when it's hard. I left the apartment, took the elevator down, walked past Bernard, who nodded at me knowingly. Ryan was waiting in the car, his face anxious. What happened? Is she really alive? Emma, talk to me. I got in the car, clutching the folder and the ring box. Drive, just drive. We need to go somewhere we can talk privately. Not home. Not anywhere your family might show up. Emma, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Because everything you think you know about your family is a lie. And we need to decide what we're going to do about it. Stop. Breathe. If you're listening to this and your heart is pounding, hit that like button right now, because Emma just got handed a nuclear bomb. She can destroy Margaret, but it might destroy Ryan in the process. Drop destroy her in the comments if you think Emma should take down Margaret. Drop protect Ryan if you think she should hide this to save her marriage. This is the impossible choice. What would you do? We drove to a park in Brooklyn, far from Greenwich, far from Queens, somewhere neutral. I spread the documents out on a picnic table while Ryan read them, his face going from confused to shocked to devastated. My mother tried to kill my grandmother, he said, finally, his voice hollow. She didn't just try. She orchestrated it. She planned it. She recruited doctors to help her. Ryan, your mother is a monster. He looked up at me, and I saw something break in his eyes. What do we do? And that was the million-dollar question. What do we do when the truth is unbearable, when justice means destroying the people you love, when the right choice is also the hardest choice? I didn't have an answer yet, but I was about to find one, whether I wanted to or not.